be quiet, please. All right, so we know how to translate Fred. Okay, we've got a vector. What should we name our? Let's name our vector O.
Oh.
So some of you are still a little bit like you're trying to just move the house to the end of the vector. The vector just shows you the direction to move. I could put the vector over here. I could put vector O over here. If it's the same size, the vector just tells me what direction and how far to move the house. So I'm moving the house, I'm moving house Fred over here, okay? So I'm moving it along vector O, and I put my little dot. You guys are really pretty good at this by now. Some of you are still just struggling a little bit, but it's not
Is
too
it
bad.
me?
I don't actually remember,
Oh.
to be honest with you. And then I
bet
connect
it
my
is.
dots, right? And then what do I name?
No shame.
What do I name this after I connect my dots?
Fred Prime.
Fred Prime. Okay?
Can't get it because it's like the paid service.
What kind of service does it keep
I know, I was just screwing with you.
What?
I don't want to know. Okay, so what if though?
Fred Meyer.
What if, guys? What if I have two vectors? Can I move Fred Prime? Can I move Fred along a vector O, and then move? Then we have another vector that we're going to call. Oh, it does need to be a straight line. And then I have another vector called F. So I have vector O, and then I have vector F. Can I move Fred again?
Yeah.
Okay, so Fred Prime is right there. Let's move it along vector F, vector EH here. Okay? And let's see what happens. So I'm moving Fred here twice. Right?
This is Fred 2 or Fred Prime 2.
It's called Fred,
Optimus Prime.
not Optimus Prime. If it was Optimus and not Fred, then it would be Optimus Prime. So Fred, we're going to name this one Fred
Prim.
double prime.
Or Prime.
No, it's Fred double prime. It's not prime. Prime just kind of sounds dumb. So it's Fred double prime. And this is where Fred double prime ended up. Okay, so here's a question for you. Is this first translation a rigid transformation?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the second translation a rigid transformation?
Yes.
Do the two translations together still make it a rigid transformation?
Yes.
If I had drawn this perfectly, which I actually didn't do too bad here,
That looks great.
it's pretty good. Are the angles the same? Is the angle of the pitch of Fred's roof the same?
Yes.
In every one. Is the length of Fred's walls the same?
Yep.
Is the length of Fred's roof the same?
Basically.
So do two translations still make it a rigid transformation?
Basically.
Basically, yeah. So there's that. Okay, now let's pretend for a second here that I've moved Fred along vector OH to the location of Fred Prime. And I don't like it. It's not good. I don't want Fred to be there anymore. What vector would I use to move Fred Prime back to Fred, the original location? If I used vector OH to get there, I'm going to use vector HO to get back. Okay? And
And then
it's
you would
the
use vector
same vector, just going the other direction. And if we look, everything lines up. And Fred Prime goes back to Fred. Okay?
What about vector he?
Vector he would take Fred double prime, which I erased, back to Fred Prime. Okay? Should we do another one of those?
Yeah.
Okay, what if I have a triangle?
House.
Triangle named house.
I
Okay?
got the German house.
Yeah, it's the German spelling for house because
Yay.
Braddock wanted German house and I know how to spell house in German.
That's weird.
Yeah, and
German.
also it's pronounced house.
Yep. And in German doesn't have any silent letters at all.
German.
If
a
it's
language
there.
where it can sound like you're cussing out your kids, even if you're complimenting.
Right? Ich liebe dich. Ah. Means I love you in German. Right?
Oh, thank you.
German is kind of an angry sounding language.
It is an angry sounding language.
It is the language that my mom is raised speaking though. So
Yeah, just like with.
don't
just like
diss
when
on it
Hitler
too
was
hard because
yelling.
it's my mother.
When Hitler was yelling, he sounded very angry.
Okay, Braddock, I need you to let me teach, please. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, name the vector.
Oh,
We already did O.
my.
Vector my. Okay. So we're gonna move house along my. Okay. So I'm gonna draw my vector. Okay, and I'm gonna move it this direction, this length. What am I gonna name my new triangle?
House prime.
House prime. Okay, what if I move it there and I decide, what? I don't like it there. I want to move it back. How do I move it back?
Vector yellow.
Vector.
Yellow.
So vector, this is how we write vectors. Vector my, took it there. Now, here's the important thing that you need to learn, okay? And students often mess up. Vector my goes this direction, and I write this is vector notation. But I still write it this way, even though ym goes that direction. When you're naming a vector, the vector always goes left to right in your name, okay? But we know that ym is really gonna go that way, but we still write it with a vector notation to the right, okay? So when you're naming a vector, this is vector OH, which kind of went that way, but vector HO also looks like it goes that way. Vector EH kind of goes down and to the right, but we still write it with the vector notation to the right, okay?
Vector he.
It's just a formality, it's just how it's done. So if I want to get house prime back to house, what vector do I use? I use vector ym. And if you look, it works. Now, let's add on another vector, okay? We're gonna add on another vector. How should it go?
Mo. Well, like northeast.
No, B, Ra.
What?
Ra.
Ra? R-A?
Are you?
R-A.
R-A like the Egyptian sun god?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ra.
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 Whoops, Ra.
So why is the sun named Ra?
Because I'm not Egyptian. That's the best way. I'm not Egyptian, so I'm not gonna call it. And actually, like Ra isn't the sun; he's the god of the sun. I'm not quite sure how that works, but so I'm gonna translate house prime down this way. So if I'm translating house prime along vector Ra, R-A,
Ra.
what am I going to name this new translation?
Oh no, tiny child's outside.
What am I going to
I
name
see
this new
John.
translation?
House double prime.
House double prime.
House prime.
Okay? Double prime. Like it really is double prime. If you say prime, it just doesn't sound right. That's just not right.
What's house double prime in German though?
I don't know what the word prime is in German.
Oh.
Okay.
But do you know what double is in German?
This isn't German class. This is math class. Let's focus on math. Okay, so house double prime. What if I want to map house double prime back to house? What do I do? What vector do I use? Let's use a popsicle stick. Let's do it. What vector? If vector RA, AJ, vector RA took me from house prime to house double prime, what vector is going to take me from house double prime back to house prime? RA took me there. Which one takes me back?
AR.
Your name is not AJ. When I call on AJ, I want AJ to answer. I don't want Braddock to answer. Okay. Yep. What did you say, AJ? Vector AR takes us back.
Wait, we're using a gun?
No. We're using vector AR. So, here's a question. We translated it And then we translated it again. Is it possible to add the vectors and just do it in one step?
Yes.
Yes. If I take vector my, so vectors go, I'm going to erase this just so we don't have that confusion, okay? If I take vector my, which one was vector my? Was it that one or that one? It was that one. So that's vector my, okay? And it's clear right there. So it's going to go like that, right? That's vector my. You add vectors by going
Mira.
end to point, okay?
Also, it's vector
End
Mira.
to point. Where's my resultant vector going to be? How do I find it, Braddock? How do you think?
You translate the shape along the vector.
No. How do I add the two vectors to make them one vector? Katana.
My plus RA.
My plus RA, but what does that look like? What do you guys think it looks like? I haven't
It looks
taught
like
this to
pulse.
you.
Prime.
What do you think it looks like?
Mira.
I'm going to draw a popsicle stick in a second and ask that person what they think. Are there wrong answers when I ask you, what do you think?
Yes.
No, well, I mean, but I want you to be thinking. So, Alyssa, how do you think I'd figure out? We've got the tail of vector my, and we've got the head of vector RA. How am I going to figure out what the total vector is going to be when these added together? What do you think?
Like all the letters go together?
All the letters? Here's a question. Let me put it this way. If I'm a little person, oh, I have her. Teeny little Mrs. Barlow is walking, okay? And she's trying to get over here, and she has this path that will take her this way. She has this path that will take her that way. Alyssa, is there a path that will take her there more directly?
Yeah.
If you were teeny Mrs. Barlow, what shortcut would you take?
Like go that way?
Just go this way?
Yeah.
And guess what? When we're adding vectors, that's what you do.
Vector mom.
You go from the tail of one to the nose of the other, and we just added those vectors and saved teeny Mrs. Barlow a heck of a lot of time on her walk. Although the guy who owns this yard is now grumpy with her because she just walked across his yard. So maybe don't do that. But if it's not somebody's house, you totally can, okay?
Vector mall. I'll just
Vector
go through
MA will get you from there to there. So what if they don't meet at right angles? Those met at beautiful right angles, and I did that on purpose. But what if I have this vector and this vector? Can I add those two vectors?
Yes, you can.
Yes, I can. So we're
It'll
gonna.
make a triangle.
They will still make a triangle. It just won't be a beautiful little right triangle. So I'm gonna draw this vector just like this. Because they're not touching each other, but I need them to be, okay? So that one, I should have drawn it. Okay, pro tip for you. Draw it from the edge, because you're gonna need that edge. Okay? So slide it over. I've got that edge right there. There's my vector. So where's my, if this is vector O, and this is vector go, okay? When I add them, I just attach the tail of this one with the head of that one, and I could have gotten there a heck of a lot faster with one vector. See that?
Vector ooh.
Vector ooh! That wasn't intentional.
Mrs.
Ogo.
Barlow.
Vector
Yes.
Ogo.
And so I was reading through this, and on E, you had a mistake. It says, why do you think what you observed in parts D and E were true?
Oh, it's supposed to be part C and D.
Yeah.
I did translate everything into English for you, but I made a mistake on that one. Thanks for catching that. I'll give you a piece of candy. You can go grab a piece of candy for catching that. So, but that's pretty much it today. It's pretty straightforward. We're just, on some of these, you're moving them twice along two vectors, and on some of them, you're adding the vector together, and on some of them, you're taking it out along the vector, and you're moving it back along the vector. Does anybody have any questions? Everybody good? Bad? So-so? Okay, Isaiah gives me the thumbs up, so we're gonna call it. I'll be wandering around if you have questions.
You dirty dog.
So Peyton,